Jack, wildcard, Mercer took another sip of whatever the hell this blue glowing alien liquor was. It burned like jet fuel but went down smoother than whiskey. Not bad. Across from him sat Emperor Gurzar of Ziranak, a hulking mass of tusks, muscle, and arrogance, currently laughing so hard his mandibles nearly unhinged. "You humans are a peculiar species," Gurzar bellowed, shaking his head, the 6 empty jugs in front of him evidence of just how much he'd been celebrating himself tonight. "So weak. So small. And yet you keep showing up, trying to prove yourselves in the grand arena of the galaxy." Jack swirled his drink and gave the alien warlord his best smirk. "And yet, here I am, still at the table, drinking with an unstoppable warrior race while half your crew is face down in their own drool." The aliens around them grumbled, some passed out from what Jack assumed was their version of heavy drinking, others just glaring at him like he was a walking insult to their existence. "Luck!" Gurzar grunted, waving a heavy hand. "Luck and trickery! That is what humans rely on." Jack leaned forward, setting his drink down. "Oh? And what exactly do Ziranaks rely on?" "Strength. Endurance. Honor," Gurzar boomed proudly. "Big words," Jack mused. "But I've noticed something. Whenever someone really starts shouting about honor, it usually means they're hiding the fact that they can't back up their words with action." The room went dead silent. A few smaller aliens in the corner physically winced. Gurzar's eyes narrowed. His tusks flared. "Are you challenging me, human?" Jack casually kicked his feet up on the table, enjoying how it made Gurzar's mandibles twitch. "I don't know. I mean, a real warrior wouldn't need to prove himself. But if you think a mere human isn't worth the challenge, I totally understand. No shame in backing down." The warlord's knuckles cracked as his four-fingered fists clenched. "Name your challenge," he growled. Jack let the smirk stretch across his face. "Let's make this interesting. 3 trials, 1 of endurance, 1 of wit, and 1 of battle. If I win, I get something of great value." Gurzar let out a booming laugh, shaking the table. "And if you lose?" Jack shrugged. "Haven't thought that far ahead. Pretty sure I won't." A low rumble of alien murmurs filled the room, warriors whispering among themselves. Gurzar slammed a fist onto the table. "Fine. But I warn you, human, I do not wager lightly." Jack raised his glass. "Then let's dance, big guy." The first trial was the test of endurance. Jack expected some brutal physical gauntlet. Maybe hanging from the ceiling for hours. Maybe running through a death maze. Nope. It was a spicy food challenge. Gurzar grinned, holding up a small, shriveled pepper that looked like Satan's personal chili. "This is the Ziranak flame root. 1 bite and most beings pass out from the pain. 3 bites, and their insides liquefy." Jack took the pepper, inspected it, then popped the whole thing into his mouth. Silence. Aliens leaned in, waiting for him to start screaming. Jack chewed. Swallowed. Reached for his drink. Took another sip. Raised an eyebrow. "Not bad," he said, setting his glass down. "Little tingle. You guys got any real spicy food?" The aliens exploded into chaos. Warriors roared in disbelief. Gurzar's mandibles twitched violently. Jack just smiled and picked at his teeth. The second trial was one of wit. Gurzar brought out the riddle cube, an ancient artifact that contained impossible mind puzzles meant to test intelligence. The goal? To solve at least one before time ran out. Jack picked up the cube, rotated it, and immediately noticed something. It had finger smudges all over the right side. Like someone had been fumbling with it over and over, trying to crack it. Jack ran a thumb over the markings, then twisted the cube in the opposite direction of the wear marks. The thing snapped open instantly. The room went deathly quiet. A nearby Ziranak choked on his drink. Another fainted. Gurzar's eyes twitched. You cheated!" Jack leaned back. "Nah. I just paid attention. Maybe try wiping your stuff down once in a while." The final trial was combat. Gurzar was grinning now. This was his domain. No way could a mere human outfight him. Jack sighed and rolled his shoulders. All right. Let's get this over with. A massive gladiator pit opened beneath them, the floor covered in alien weapons. Gurzar lunged forward, swinging a massive warhammer. Jack ducked. Gurzar swung again. Jack sidestepped. For the next 5 minutes, the alien warlord kept missing, swinging wildly while Jack casually dodged every blow. Hold still, you dishonorable wretch! Gurzar roared. Yeah, see, humans don't do that. Jack grinned. Then he did something Gurzar wasn't expecting. He faked a trip. Gurzar lunged in to finish him, only for Jack to flip onto his back and kick the warlord's tusked face with both boots. The massive alien stumbled, tripped, and fell face first onto his own hammer. Knocked out cold. The entire room erupted in stunned gasps. Jack dusted himself off. Huh! Guess that means I win. Gurzar groaned on the floor. A scribe stepped forward, clearing his throat. By the ancient codes, the human has bested our emperor in all 3 trials. Jack smirked. All right then. I believe I was promised something valuable. Gurzar staggered to his feet, dazed but fuming. You were. He waved a hand toward the door. It opened. A 9-foot-tall alien woman stepped through. Jack's grin froze. She was built like a brick wall, 4 arms, muscles that could bend steel, and eyes locked directly on him like a predator sizing up its prey. The scribe read aloud. By the laws of Ziranak honor, the Emperor has wagered his most valuable possession. Jack blinked. Wait. What? Gurzar gave him a very smug look. Human, meet my daughter, Princess Viwilzara. Your prize. Jack stared. Viwilzara cracked her knuckles. Then smiled. Well, human, she purred. Shall we begin the mating trials? Jack spat out his drink. Jack wiped his mouth, trying to make sure he hadn't misheard that last part. The room was still dead silent, every alien eye locked onto him, waiting for his response. He glanced at Gurzar, who looked far too smug for someone who just got knocked out 5 minutes ago. Then he looked at her. Princess Viwilzara stood with her 4 muscular arms crossed, her gaze sharp and evaluating. She was at least 9 feet tall, built like a gladiator, and had the unmistakable aura of someone who wasn't used to hearing the word no. Jack cleared his throat. All right. Quick question. By prize you mean? Viwilzara cracked her knuckles. You are mine. Jack blinked. Okay, define mine, because I feel like there's a lot of room for interpretation here. Gurzar leaned forward, his tusks glinting. By the laws of honor, you have bested me. You claimed victory over my most valued treasure. That treasure is Viwilzara. You are now her mate. Jack opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. Nothing came out. The scribe stepped forward, stone-faced. To make the union official, you must complete the rites of bonding. Jack slowly turned his head. But what now? Viwilzara's smirk was downright predatory. The rites. The trials that prove you are worthy of being my mate. Jack pointed at Gurzar. Didn't I just prove that by wiping the floor with your dad? Gurzar scowled. Those were warriors' trials. Mating trials are different. Jack exhaled through his nose. Of course they are. The scribe continued. First, the carrying of the groom. Jack did not like how that sounded. Before he could process what was happening, Viwilzara grabbed him. Like a sack of flour. Threw him over her shoulder. The room cheered. Jack flailed. Okay. Nope. No. We don't do this where I'm from. Put me down. Viwilzara gave his very much upside-down body a hearty slap on the back. You are light, human. This pleases me. Jack groaned. Glad I could brighten your day. The scribe droned on. The next trial is the dance of dominance. Jack, still over Viwilzara's shoulder, perked up. Oh, I can dance. Viwilzara dropped him on his feet. It is a combat trial. Jack rubbed his very bruised ribs. I hate this place. A circle formed around them, and suddenly Villalzara was on him. Forearms. 4. Jack dodged left, dodged right, ducked, weaved, and immediately regretted every choice that led him here. She swung. He dodged. She swung again. He tripped, ***, completely by accident, ***, and crashed into her legs. Villalzara went down hard. The crowd gasped. Jack scrambled back. Are you okay? Villalzara sat up, eyes wide. Then, she laughed. Not a chuckle. Not a smirk. A full-bodied, warrior's laugh that made her shoulders shake. Jack blinked. I wasn't expecting that reaction. She stood shaking her head. You fight strangely. But it worked. This pleases me. Jack exhaled. Oh, thank God. Does that mean I passed? The scribe nodded. You may now proceed to the final rite. Jack was already regretting asking. The night of bonding. Jack's stomach dropped. You cannot be serious. Villalzara grinned. Jack turned to Gerzar. Do I at least get dinner first? A drink? Some foreplay? Gerzar looked disgusted. Why would you require sustenance for battle? Jack froze. Battle? The scribe cleared his throat. The night of bonding is the final test. You must survive a night in the forest of trials. Jack clapped his hands together. Great. So instead of a romantic evening, I get thrown into a death jungle. Fantastic. Villalzara tilted her head. You humans bond differently? Jack pinched the bridge of his nose. We talk. Get to know each other. Maybe a nice meal. Some casual flirting. Not survive a murder forest. Villalzara considered this. Then shrugged. Zirenaks prefer action. Jack muttered under his breath. Yeah. No kidding. He barely had time to react before Villalzara grabbed him again. Wait. And then they were airborne. Straight into the jungle. Jack hit the ground with a hard thud. He groaned, rubbing his head. This is not how I pictured my night going. Villalzara landed beside him with zero effort, stretching her arms. Survive until morning. Then we are bonded. Jack sighed, already hearing growls from the darkness. Awesome. Just awesome. And then something huge roared. Jack swore under his breath. You owe me so many drinks after this. Villalzara smirked. If you survive, human, you can claim your reward. Jack knew she was messing with him. But his brain was already in the gutter. And this was only the beginning. Jack barely had time to brace himself before Villalzara kicked into full gear, propelling them both deeper into the jungle. The screeching howls of some kind of alien predator echoed through the trees as they zipped by, and Jack did his best not to vomit from the speed at which he was being dragged along. She moved like an unstoppable force of nature, her forearms pumping with ease as if carrying a human was nothing more than a casual stroll. You know, back home we call this kidnapping. Jack's voice wavered slightly from the dizziness, but he wasn't backing down. Villalzara didn't even slow down. It is not kidnapping. You accepted the challenge. Jack squinted ahead. Yeah, about that. I didn't accept this jungle death match, okay? The only reason I agreed to this bet was because I thought I was getting, like, a new spaceship or a bunch of credits. Not you. She grunted in response, clearly unfazed by his complaints. The challenge was to prove you were worthy. And now you are here. Worthy? Jack thought, but before he could process what she was saying, something huge and furious leapt out from the shadows, roaring like a stomping freight train. A creature with glowing eyes and claws long enough to cleave a tree in half charged toward them, its saliva sizzling the ground where it landed. Jack, who wasn't exactly equipped for this kind of thing, reflexively reached for his blaster, but realized too late he had left it back with Gerzar, tucked away in some corner of the arena. His life was officially a disaster. Villalzara! He yelled, only for her to spin around with a terrifying grin. Move, human! You will survive this if you keep up. Before he could blink, Villalzara dashed forward, her muscles bulging as she grappled with the monster like it was a child's toy. The thing roared, but she grabbed its jaws, forcing them open with an audible snap. Jack's jaw went slack in sheer disbelief as the alien princess effortlessly tossed the thing aside, its body landing in a heap, twitching but otherwise subdued. The while Zara turned to Jack. Your turn. Jack blinked at the creature. My turn? What do you mean, my turn? I don't have a. Survive, human. She winked at him. Find your own way out of this. He gaped at her. What? That's it. You just throw me in there and. The while Zara walked off, ignoring him completely and continuing deeper into the jungle, leaving Jack to figure out how to handle the situation. With a loud, guttural growl, another predator lunged from the brush. Jack swore loudly and dove to the ground, narrowly avoiding its jaws. Okay, fine. He wasn't going down without a fight. The jungle was alive with movement, and these creatures didn't give a damn about who he was or why he was here. Jack managed to find a thick branch and swing it in front of the creature, hoping to make some kind of deterrent. The creature, a lizard-like beast with 8 legs and razor-sharp teeth, hissed, clearly unimpressed with his pathetic efforts. It made another move toward him, and Jack, in pure survival mode, kicked the creature's side, hard. It paused for a split second, too long. Jack swung the branch straight into its face, and with an unnatural screech, the thing staggered back, momentarily dazed. He ran. He ran faster than he ever had in his life. Every snapping twig beneath his feet seemed like it was going to be his last. Every rustling bush screamed that another beast was lurking just behind him. He didn't know how much time passed, but eventually, he saw Viwile Zara again. She was standing in the middle of a small clearing, her back to him, waiting as though she'd known he'd make it. You survived. She sounded amused, but there was a subtle nod of approval behind her usual arrogance. Jack, panting heavily, stopped just a few feet from her. Yeah, well, not like I had much of a choice. She raised an eyebrow. You are quick for a human. I'm quick because I don't have superhuman strength or 4 arms to save my ass. He wiped the sweat from his forehead. And I'm hoping I don't have to fight another one of those things. The while Zara chuckled. That was just a warm-up. Jack blinked. A warm-up? That thing nearly ate me. What the hell kind of tests are you running here? The while Zara crossed her arms, her gaze unwavering. The test is not to defeat every creature you meet. It is to survive. She tilted her head slightly. You did not give up. You acted on instinct. I admire that. Jack was too tired to be smug, but he still couldn't help a small grin. Well, at least I'm good for something. She gave him a look. You are good for more than this. Jack felt his throat tighten slightly. Damn. Was she flirting with him? Was this part of the whole bonding ritual? Maybe he was reading into it. Maybe she was just messing with him. The while Zara took a step forward, her voice low and steady. Your next challenge is to prove you can keep up. The night is not over yet, human. He sighed. So what, we run more? I'm all for cardio, but I feel like I'm about to pass out here. No. Her lips curled into a dangerous grin. You survive until dawn. Jack opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Another roar split the air as a massive shadow appeared overhead. Looks like the night's just getting started. Jack muttered, suddenly realizing that the jungle wasn't done with him yet. The while Zara raised her hands, her posture perfectly poised, ready for whatever came next. Ready, human? Jack looked up at the looming threat and then back at her, grinning through his exhaustion. Hell no. But here we are anyway. And with that, he ran again. The night dragged on like an endless nightmare of teeth, claws, and relentless alien creatures. Jack was starting to think he was never going to see daylight again. Every time he turned around, there was another beast lurking in the shadows, just waiting for the right moment to pounce. But Viwile Zara didn't seem concerned at all. She was almost enjoying herself, dodging, weaving, and taking down anything that dared get too close, like she was born for this chaotic jungle madness. Jack, on the other hand, was barely hanging on. His legs were on fire, his breathing was ragged, and every step felt like he was running on fumes. At this point, he'd been running for hours, trying to keep pace with a literal alien warrior who could probably go another week without breaking a sweat. Meanwhile, Jack was just trying not to get eaten alive. "You're slowing down, human!" Viwailzara's voice cut through the darkness, dripping with both amusement and genuine concern, the kind you get when you realize your personal amusement is slowly becoming a disaster for everyone around you. Jack shot her a glare. "I'm not exactly built for speed and constant cardio, okay? Some of us need a break every now and then." She didn't respond with words. Instead, she turned, grabbed his arm with one of her 4 hands, and dragged him along like he weighed nothing. Jack's feet barely touched the ground as she pulled him forward, easily leaping over rocks and dodging trees. He was too tired to even think about resisting. At this point, his only goal was to stay alive long enough to get out of this nightmare. A roar echoed through the jungle. Jack felt the ground vibrate beneath him. Another one. Great. More giant, terrifying creatures that seemed to exist solely for the purpose of making his life a living hell. "Stay close, human. This one is different." Viwailzara's tone was suddenly serious, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the area. Jack barely had time to catch his breath when the massive beast emerged from the trees, its body covered in thick, scaly armor, and its jaws wide open like some grotesque nightmare come to life. This one was faster than anything Jack had faced so far. It moved with a deadly grace, and it was charging straight toward them. Viwailzara shifted into a battle stance, her muscles rippling as she prepared for the fight. "You need to keep it distracted." Jack blinked. "What? How the hell am I supposed to distract that thing?" Viwailzara smirked. "With your charm, human." Jack raised an eyebrow, both confused and insulted. "You've gotta be kidding me." But before he could argue, the creature lunged. Jack's instincts kicked in, and he dove to the side, barely managing to avoid being crushed by the beast's massive bulk. His body hit the ground hard, but he scrambled to his feet, barely catching a glimpse of Viwailzara, who was already engaged in brutal hand-to-hand combat with the creature. Jack swallowed. "Okay. Time to get creative." Without a second thought, he grabbed a nearby rock, hefting it in his hand. The monster was focused on Viwailzara, and Jack knew he had only a split second before it would turn and attack him instead. He waited for just the right moment, then hurled the rock with all his might at the creature's head. It barely grazed its skull, but it was enough to get the monster's attention. The creature let out a deafening screech and swung its massive tail at him. Jack barely had time to roll to the side, the tail whipping past him with inches to spare. "Distract it more, human!" Viwailzara's voice rang out from the chaos, her fists colliding with the beast's skull. Jack scrambled, looking for anything he could use to buy himself more time. He grabbed another rock, then a branch, and started throwing them in random directions. He wasn't exactly aiming to hit anything, just trying to keep the creature's focus on anything but him. The beast roared in frustration and turned toward him. Jack panicked for a split second, then bolted into the underbrush, hoping that his speed was enough to keep him from becoming another one of this thing's meals. He could hear the creature's heavy footsteps behind him, getting closer, but he didn't dare look back. He could only feel the vibrations in the ground as it closed in. His lungs were burning, his body screamed for rest, but he pushed himself harder, focusing on one goal: survive. Then, suddenly, the ground beneath him gave way, and he was falling, tumbling down a steep slope. His stomach lurched as he fell, but he somehow managed to twist himself in midair, landing in a muddy pit at the bottom with a sickening thud. For a second, everything was silent. Then, the ground shook again. The creature had reached the edge of the pit, staring down at him with eyes full of malice. Jack groaned, pushing himself up from the mud. Great. The worst part? Viwailzara wasn't anywhere to be seen. The beast's maw opened again, its teeth gleaming in the dim light. It took another step, then suddenly froze. Jack heard a crackling sound above him, followed by the unmistakable sound of a heavy object crashing through the trees. And then Viwailzara appeared. She jumped down into the pit, landing with a powerful thud next to Jack, completely unfazed by the dirt and debris that kicked up around them. Without a word, she plowed into the creature, her fist connecting with its side with such force that the beast was knocked sideways, crashing into the mud. "Told you to keep up, human!" Viwailzara's voice was dripping with smugness as she delivered a punch to the beast's skull that knocked it out cold. Jack stared at her, dumbfounded. You just did that!" She looked down at him with a raised eyebrow. "You didn't think you were the only one capable of surprising me, did you?" Jack didn't answer. Instead, he stumbled to his feet and wiped the mud off his face. The adrenaline rush was still hitting him hard, but now that the immediate danger had passed, his exhaustion was catching up to him. He could barely keep his eyes open, and he felt like he might collapse at any second. Viwailzara turned toward him, her expression softening just a little. "You survived. You proved you are more than just your strength." Jack let out a dry laugh, wiping his forehead. "Yeah, well, I guess I have to thank that rock for giving me a second chance." Viwailzara nodded. "You learned how to fight in your own way, human. That is the kind of partner I need." Jack, still reeling from everything that had just happened, gave her a tired smile. "Well, that's a relief. Now, can we get out of here? I think I'm done with this jungle for a while." Viwailzara chuckled. "Not yet. The dawn is still far away. We finish this together." And with that, they ventured deeper into the jungle, ready to face whatever new dangers awaited them.